Hey folks, Brian, we got to play Elderath last night. And if you recall, last time we were in the maze cavern I, and there was a stone that looked like had been pushed into place. And so we were trying to get it open, and we failed, and we failed, and we failed. So this time we put Runt and Raymond using the axe as a lever, and then Raymond cast a bless spell on Runt, gives them maneuver bonuses. And they were successful. So there's a small alcove in there. There's a chest. Does not look locked, but there are no hinges. It depicts elves and spiders. Got the kind of motif on it. There's a staff that has fish carvings like spiraling around the staff itself. And there's the breastplate and backplate of plate armor there, and a small mortise locked coffer. If I said that right. Anyway, we take those things. We decide, okay, we need to just get out of here, right? So we go back north where there's a secret door to where the bugbear chieftain guy had departed, and we found a chest there. So we go back get that chest. With all this stuff, we head back to camp. Okay, okay. At some point in that night, we're looking at the chest. It's some kind of like a puzzle box. There's no hinges or anything, but there's little panels, and a couple of us try it, no success. Uh, so that night, fireside chats, talking about stuff. We talk about the owl bear and the goat man. We show the staff to the priest. He says, "Ooh, that's an extraordinary find. It appears to be a staff of healing." And then there's a bunch of discussion about, okay, what does that really mean in mechanical game terms for us? Which reminds me that the like plays in the description if you're into that kind of thing. So Raymond also takes a look at it. And then he and the priest go off to the priest has a makeshift altar, holy place made up, and they go over there to study and meditate on the staff. While that's going on, though, when they're doing their thing, Raymond has a vision. He's underwater. He's moving very quickly. He comes to some kind of an inner sanctum, and there's an altar, and he has a feeling that he needs to do something with a staff. There's a scene on one of the broken walls that relates to a relief that we have seen here in the caves. There's a figure kneeling before the altar. Raymond starts to feel uncomfortable and he feels like he's starting to drown. And he recovers, and when he does so, he's in front of the altar. He's soaking wet with salt water, by the way, and the priest is there trying to assist him. Um, and Raymond tells the priest what he saw, and the priest says, "Hey, you need to share this vision with the high priestess. It could be extremely important." Uh, and Raymond says, "Is this so important we should leave now, or wait till we go back to Karsh on our normal schedule?" And the priest says, "Hey, it's your experience. So, I defer to you on how important this is in the long run of things." So Raymond, gets some dry clothes and dries up or cleans up and records in a notebook as much of this vision as he can. It was as he was flying over his huge city, completely in ruins. The staff itself, has the healing spell list in it, like concussions ways, and it can convert up to 3 magic points into healing, but doesn't have its own reservoir of magic points in it. But again, not again, but also, Raymond has not fully attuned to the staff, and he will not be able to do that unless he becomes devoted to Lorath, um, and the Orthodox Lorath, not the Reformed Lorath, apparently. Okay, next day we discuss timing and whether we leave now or not, and what do we have left to do on our mission. We were sent here for a purpose, right? And we are the current threats that are left are the goat man and the owlbear. So head back to Cavern I, the twisty, curvy one, where the goat man attacked Wes, And we go through the whole thing, and there's no sign of this goat man. So we kind of think maybe he left to go find some place safe to go and heal, because Wes did a number on that arm. And then we have some discussions about the owl bear. We head back to camp. Okay, we discuss the current situation back at camp with everybody there. Okay, we've cleared out the valley except for Cavern G, which is the owl bear. And we don't think that we're prepared for this because owl bears in this world are like cave bears with a beak, so huge and dangerous. Um, and as long as we don't provide any prey for the owl bear here, it will go and find some other cave to hide in and pick food from as well there. And we've kind of eliminated most of the prey in the valley ourselves. So Krim says, okay, this is the keep to the northeast. It probably has enough strength to overwhelm anyone that we leave behind. And was yes, it does. Um, so she is planning on taking everyone back instead of leaving a small contingent here to watch the ancient temple areas. We're just gonna take everybody, and if the Iron Fist comes and they take over, then they take over those spaces. So she's taking everyone back, and she's going to recommend to the High Priestess that the first thing the church need to do is to deal with the keep. Um, it would be nice to leave a contingent to make control, but the risk to them is just plain too high. Okay. There's some discussion about the chamber under the altar portal. The portal in the chamber under the altar, okay, that we don't have the key to. The priest at the Hamlet temple has a key that was used for that tunnel that went from our temple, well, that temple in Hamlet, to some coastal ruins out near, um, shoot, I forgot his name already. The place there, but on the coast, right? And the priest kind of tells us, that at the time of the Lords of Bloodstone, um, the Lords of Bloodstone did create these things, right? It was part of the resistance force against Forg's rule, so they could go places and hide, and be able to get places and do stuff against Forg. That's why the Lords of Bloodstone created these portals. Okay, so we head back to Karsh, and en route we encounter a group headed toward us. Grim doesn't want to encounter anybody, so we all jump off the road and allow them to pass by. Runt does kind of sneak out and follow them for a while, trying to, are these in fact Iron Fist people? And they are. Runt comes back and talks with Captain Krim because she's kind of in charge of things right now, but Runt wants to go what we call Heta on them because Heta is a spy assassin kind of person, right? And there's a discussion going on because he wants to get her concurrence. That discussion does not go well. No, you're not going to do that. Okay, more travel, and we see a fire off to the northeast. The main party continues on towards Kars, but Krim and us, we go and investigate. There's a homestead and it's burning. Go looking for survivors. While we're doing that, Hjalmar and Raymond spot a rope mostly covered with dirt and such. And they pull it up, and sure enough, it's attached to a trap door that goes into a cellar. There are three very frightened people down there. Don't hurt us! Don't hurt us! And then the baby starts to cry. So Raymond tries to calm them down, speaking Norse, and asks them to come on up and tell them what happened, or tell us what happened. These people look vaguely familiar to Hjalmar. He's seen them from time to time in various markets and such, right? So they are locals. As we're discussing things, we found out the father is dead and that a daughter is missing. So Raymond attempts to do some tracking, and despite all the confusion of tracks and stuff there, he does see two sets of prints going off together, one large and one small. Runt follows up, checking because they're going parallel to the road. Comes back, hey, they're just going parallel to the road. The wife says the husband said someone was coming up the road, and that's when they all went to hide. And the bodies of the dead have all been slashed like with a sword. At this point, Krim takes the survivors, gets back to the road, catches up with the rest of her retinue, and heads on to Kars. So we follow the tracks. They're headed towards a pass that we had followed this pass before. It goes over into Forglands, and there was a village on the other side that was destroyed by goblins. And that's where we found some heirloom stuff, an underground temple, and that's where we got the dog. So we're following in the path, following their tracks, and we lose the trail. And when we lose the trail, Hjalmar is positive that they must have backtracked and continued some other way. Um, so we do go back, and Raymond notices in the prints that the small prints at times look like they're being hurried along. And Runt gets the feeling that these tracks are being, disturbed or obscured and such, as it's hard to find them. So Wes sends Emerald up, scout ahead from the air. She comes back a little bit later, eating on something, and she didn't see any people. So we arrive at the pass, the actual peak of the pass, right? And we search around. Emerald. Oh, we did that part. So Wes has her fly up, and he casts one of his familiar spells, the sense sharing thing, so he can see through her eyes. And she's kind of looking around, and they see something up ahead that's not normal. It's different than the rest of the area. So she comes back down. It's off to the northwest. We go over there, and we find a dead elk. He's got a puncture in the chest, and one of his legs has been removed. Removed, not chewed, bitten off, cut. Um, so we, at that point, we decide we're just gonna. It's past. Only place he can go. It's the only way to happen. So we rush up to go through the pass. When we get to the top of the pass, Runt um, finds the tracks heading down towards the town. So we go to the town, and as we get closer to town, notice, hey, there's some different things here. Hey, there's a fortification. There's palisades. There's some spiked heads of orcs and goblins of some sort up there. Well, and sure enough, there are guards on this palisade. It's occupied. So the town has changed. When we get there, the gate guard asks, what are you doing here? And we tell him about the kidnapping. And one of the guards gets all abashed. I knew I shouldn't have trusted him. So they send for the sergeant. And when he comes, we tell our story. The guards tell their story. We give a description of the guy, and the sergeant of the guard gets all upset because that fits the description of somebody who stole a horse. So about 6 hours ago, this guy left with the girl on a horse. The sergeant is going to send a runner to the next town up about, hey, there's this guy, he stole a horse, that kind of stuff. He's wanted for kidnapping and murder and, and arson and killing a goat. Um, so we get a meal and spend the night discussing what to do. So we decide, okay, we're going to head to the next town because we realize that this is Wild Eye, the guy that we let loose out of the Caves of Chaos. The one who was chained up and had killed all the other creatures that were there. Anyway, so we get to the next town, see what we can see. Along the way, though, we do spot that flying ship. It's actually a long ship. I envisioned multi-mast, but it's not. It's a long ship. We get to Lodask. That's the name of the next city, right? And it's got a large dirt embankment, right, with a palisade on top. There are a few tenant farms outside. It's a proper village. There's a smithy. There are stables. It's not particularly large, but it is well defended. And it's right on the river. And just outside of the palisaded village are some docks for a port. The guard tells us that the big guy on the horse of the girl came through yesterday. He hasn't seen him since, so he may have sold the horse for passage. Um, Maybe go talk to the harbor master. I'm sure they've already left. Everything is pretty much going north from here anyway. So we go and find the harbor master, who knows. Yeah, he knew it. In fact, he bought the horse from Wild Eye. Telling him, hey, we're looking for this guy, and we're trying to find out where he went. But they took passage on a ship that was traveling points north. Now there's like 3 or 4 major inlets north of here, and then there's these islands to the east after that. And we know that Wild Eye is from the islands, so there's a big, huge discussion amongst all of us on a couple different things. One, can we afford to do this? Two, is it worthwhile doing? Um, and three, how do we go about finding him, assuming we can make things all happen? Because the ship that went north could be at any of those northern ports, because they're going to take what they got here, they're going to another port, sell, buy there, go to another port, sell, buy there. Got a little triangle of things going on, right? But we don't know where he's going, just north. He may have gone right to the islands first and then come over. We just don't know. And it got very, very complicated at that point. Uh, and we kind of decided there's just no way we can follow up at this point. It turns out, though, there are 3 ships here. One of us is actually going to go to Kars, so we take it and we head to Kars. Wes uses some of his air magic to speed up the trip, and we pay cash for the rest, kind of thing. Okay, a few days later, we get to Kars, and we meet up with the High Priestess, and Raymond tells his vision story. And we find out that turns out that Herman has been away for some time. In fact, he had left prior to the time that we met with him. So someone's pretending to be him. Um, Wes is thinking outside the box at this point, and it gets straightened out later on that probably just illusion spells. Anyway, so the temple up north has historic interest and importance, but it's not enough to expend any more lives over. Likewise, the keep will put pressure on anybody who takes possession of the land there, right? Again, risking lives. So she's not going to do either. Okay, no one seems to know where Herman is, but the word is that he came across information about a vault, one of these circles of Stolf vaults, and went to go investigate. Now, our interpretation of Herman is he doesn't go and investigate anything himself, but it could be that the temptation of a vault may change that. And there's a discussion here about the circle of Stolf and portals and stuff. Actually, that's a little bit later, but that all happens in the live play. Okay, we go find the family that's been displaced. We tell them we got to Lodask, and at that point we lost the trail. We couldn't follow any further. The woman is obviously distraught, but it's not known for these things to happen. People getting stolen, that kind of thing, right? But Raymond offers, and Wes concurs, we hire them for the villa. So they'll have a place to stay, food to eat, that kind of stuff, and they'll have a job, things they can do. Okay, so while they head off to the villa, Wes and Hjalmar, as a bodyguard, go to the guild hall, and Wes speaks with Thurmond, his sponsor, mentor. And there's some discussions about Herman, that he's actually after a vault because the guild's going to want to know about that. Wes also tells Thormund about the portal underneath the altar in the temple and the caves. And there's a big discussion here about, okay, how much do you know about portals? How much have you told him about portals and all this kind of stuff, right? And we know it was a portal because we've actually been to a portal, the one up in Hamlet in the temple, and Wes is explaining this to Thurmund. There's a portal in Hamlet that goes to ruins on the northern coast. And we went through it. The temple priest has that key. And Thurman tells the portals are older than Forg. The ways in between can be dangerous, and we need to use caution. In fact, he says it's possible that Forg placed that demon there to guard the portal when Forg was in power or losing power or something, right? And there's theories that these portals may actually connect to different destinations, and it's how you use the key that determines which destination you end up at. Any given portal may have multiple transit points. Okay, so Wes then shares the vision he had on the star quartz crystal. And discussions then ensue about this witch and what she did, and the dragon and the swamp and all the stuff that Wes is regurgitating out that Thurman didn't know about. And so he's going, wait, slow down, slow down, slow down. Okay, first, that's not a witch. And yeah, we knew it wasn't a witch. That's just what we called her because she was in a swamp. And we go through the whole thing about the dragon being controlled and coming in as an ogre, and the space around the ogre adjusted itself to fit him rather than it being an illusion of him kind of thing or something. And the flower inside the crystal thing being given to the ogre, and the ogre says, "Are you giving this to me?" And yes, and so he crushed it, and it turns into his eye. He puts his eye in, and that's when he turned on the witch and poured acid all over her until her body was destroyed. But then a little spirit thing kind of flew away. Okay, so this thing, after this vision, and Thurman says it's probably not you that had the vision. It was your familiar that had the vision because she's a magical creature, which is good because it's not me, it's her. But this is obviously a dangerous magical artifact, and not just some crystal. In order to understand it better, though, you will need to bond to it. This thing has spells that can disguise itself. Um, Not only affect the power that you emanate, so you actually you could appear as no power, zero power, not there. Um, that kind of thing. And then there's this a little primer on true names. So maybe this dragon's true name was etched into that flower in the glass case, and that's how the witch was controlling him. Um, is that it? That appears to be it. Uh, no fighting, some investigation, a lot of anguish of heart having let a bad guy loose who has destroyed and killed and plundered his way across the land, and now we can't find him. But some good information on stuff happening. So Wes's next step is to uh, tune, which will cost him a point of power, to the stone. See what happens from there. But we've got a week of downtime coming up at the villa, and we've got check marks to make. One of which is a power gain check. So hopefully that'll work. In which case, Wes won't feel so bad about sacrificing another point of power. Happy gaming.